Hello. Budget is around the corner. To discuss more on this, we have a very special guest today. Former Finance Secretary of India and renowned author Subhash Chandra Garg sir. Welcome sir on Money Control.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Harsh.
Just to begin with sir, what are your major wish list for banking sector in upcoming budget?
See, the budget is not about the banking sector alone, but the budget does get influenced or affect the banking in many ways. For example, the government raises enormous amount of debt. That borrowing is funded by the banking sector tremendously. The budget also lays emphasis on the kind of expenditures which generate demand in the economy. For example, capital investment, then the debt side of that is funded by the banking and the financial sector. So I would rather put it this way, that let us first look at the larger contours of the budget and then where does the banking sector fit in. So in my sense, in the coming budget, the government is likely to keep the fiscal deficit at around 6% of GDP. And if you take the GDP projection at around 300 lakh crores or 300 trillion rupees and take about 6% as the fiscal deficit, so then you have a number of borrowing of about 18 lakh crore. That is the kind of budget deficit one is looking forward to. And much of that is funded by also the banking sector as well. So while I don't say what is the wish, but 6% of GDP as fiscal deficit is a fairly large deficit in the context of the country, which impact the rising in debt of the government, which also then impact the interest rates into the system. So we already have about 155 trillion rupees of the debt, which would be by the end of this year. And if you add another 18 trillion rupees of debt, you might be looking at a very high debt and liabilities of the government at about 170 to 175 lakh crores. That's a very large load on the banking and the financial system. I wish the government would go for reducing the fiscal deficit, but the kind of situation we are in terms of the expenditure and the revenue projections and the government's agenda for the next year, expansion of the capital expenditure as well as some populist scheme, etc., I don't see the fiscal consolidation taking place.
And adding to that, sir, what are your views on RBI's efforts in globalization the Indian rupee and minimizing the current account deficit?
See, RBI is making effort at internationalizing Indian rupee, and whenever we refer to internationalization of rupee or any currency for that matter, I think what we refer is that the trade which takes place between countries is denominated and paid for in that particular currency. Much of India's trade has been taking place in dollars, some in yen and euro, but a large part, about 80% or so, takes place in dollars. Now, can you replace that trade with rupee? There are some countries around us, for example, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, and maybe Russia, which might be interested in doing some trade in rupees, but mind you, their currency is not rupee. So when they trade, they would like to trade in their own currency. And how do you relatively fix the value of these two currencies? They are not largely internationally traded currencies, etc. There is not much market into that. And then it comes to that again you are using the main international currencies like dollar for doing that backward conversion between the rupee and ruble for that matter. So while the attempts are being made, but I don't see very major impact happening in getting internationalization of rupees, which in a way, if you want to look at it, what signifies that rupees internationalized, that is signified by the fact that whether any other banks or central banks hold rupee as a reserve currency, and that I don't see happening at all. So my sense is this is more sentimental, more emotional than real in terms of internationalization.
Adding to that, sir, with the increase in FDI in the banking sector, will bank privatization get a push in the upcoming budget?
I think what you're probably saying is in the context of the IDBI bank, because that's the one which is on the block. The other two banks which the finance minister mentioned in the 21-22 budget, that we'll privatize two public sector banks, that's not happening, because that required the amendment in the Banking Nationalization Acts. That amendment has not been brought in. 2 years have gone, and I don't see any possibility of that being brought in the remaining 1 year of the government's tenure in this one. Therefore, the little bit of sort of liberalization in FDI for the banking sector might make some difference in the IDBI's case, IDBI bank's case. But there are many other issues as well. It's not only one issue. There are other regulations which have also been changed, for example, permitting how much of the equity you can hold for how long, etc. But it's a dicey issue, the IDBI bank issue as well. A lot of time has already gone in sorting some of these issues. Some still are remaining. So I keep my fingers crossed whether the government would be able to keep or offload the IDBI bank. But there is a possibility that this can be done.
Now I'm coming to digital banking units. 75 digital banking units were installed last year in different 75 districts. Will digital banking and payment get an extra push with such efforts?
See, digital banking is the future. In fact, most of the banking today has become digital, in the sense when you sort of make your payments today, most likely you're using UPI or IMPS or other things, except small payments and all. And that is through the banking system using the digital medium. So a lot of payments have already become digital. Credit is increasingly becoming digital, though still there is a lot of paperwork which is required as far as the credit is concerned. That's what the 75 district banking units were supposed to reduce and make it. But the real change in digital banking comes when the banks become completely digital. They don't have, in that sense, the physical premises. They don't have office or counters, etc. in the banks. And most of the transactions, whether it's deposits or credit or investment or other activities which happen through the banks, including payments, take place digitally. That is not what India has so far spoken of. In fact, the Reserve Bank has not been in favor of digital banking in this sense of the term. So, in short, yes, we have seen good movement towards payment becoming digital. We have also seen some movement towards credit becoming digital, especially in the outside banking space. Many NBFCs and other agencies, fintech companies are coming up and providing the credit to SMEs and others digitally. The government and the public sector banks are also trying to do that, but that still is some way ahead of us. is still to take place.
Yeah, recently RBI has launched CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency, but there are lots of points which is unclear yet. On which point do you think Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman should address in upcoming budget?
See, again, the currency becomes digital only when the rupee in your wallet, the physical rupee in your wallet, is replaced by the digital rupees in your digital wallet. That is the test, that is the time, that is the point when the currency can be said to have become digital, or CBDC can be said to have become operational, right? That is the definition and the test. That, to my mind, is still far away. What the Reserve Bank on the retail side has done, some experimentation, some very small steps in that. I don't see at this stage anything happening where, as I said, poor man's. By the way, currency, physical currency, is more used by the small for small transactions by in the retail segment, and that is the segment which is the hardest. They have started using UPI and others for making digital payments, which is fine. But whenever they need to do transaction in currency, they use the physical currency, right? So that becoming replaced by the digital currency is far away. To your question, what the finance minister should do or can do in this budget to promote digital currency or CBDC, I don't think government need to do anything more. They had made enabling provision in the last budget itself by amending the RBI Act. RBI was supposed to come back for a detailed or a comprehensive law, laying down the form, the other things of like we have Coin and Currency Act for the coins and the physical system of currency. For the digital, that detailed law, comprehensive law, was to be framed and brought. That doesn't seem to, because we are still at the pilot or experimenting stage. So my sense is that as far as CBDC is concerned, there may not be anything in the budget.
Crypto was the talk of the town this year. Do you expect any changes in taxation of virtual digital assets this year?
So crypto tax came last year, the capital gains for the virtual digital assets, which was basically the crypto assets, though by definition it covered many others, which have later on been clarified by primarily targeting it crypto. So you had the capital gains taxation of the crypto assets coming up in the last budget, but there is a lot of other taxation agenda is still left out. For example, the value-added taxation of GST on the transactions which are used or delivered using the cryptography and the blockchain technology. There is lack of clarity about that. So it was expected that the government at some point in time will come up with the indirect taxation system for the crypto goods and services. That has not happened. It perhaps could have been announced in this budget, but what has happened in the crypto businesses in the last year, as you saw, there has been tremendous fall in the value. There have been certain misdeeds and the frauds and others which have taken place as well, and therefore the sort of delivering or preparing the goods and services or using crypto platforms, that has got slowed down. So again, my sense is that we may not see any action on the crypto assets or crypto goods and services related taxation in the ensuing budget.
Now I am coming to digital lending apps. Despite various cautions, there were several incidents of fraud on digital banking lending apps. Are you expecting some strong provision for it in upcoming budget?
Again, this is not a budget issue.
Yeah.
You see, the regulation of the credit is entirely with the Reserve Bank of India. And what do you permit to be sort of delivered through credit cards, credit apps, whether you allow the fintech companies to, what kind of transactions related to this you. So this is not a budget subject, and this requires very sort of a very detailed kind of regulatory arrangements to put in. So this is entirely in the RBI's space, and RBI has been doing a lot of regulatory action in this kind of thing. So my sense is, on this, don't expect anything in the budget either.
Last question, your views on fiscal deficit deviation from FRBM and case for inflation index taxation?
See, I initially spoke about the fiscal deficit. So, FRBM Act, which laid down that by 2021 and thereafter, the government should not run and will not run a fiscal deficit of more than 3%. That's the law of the land. Unfortunately, that was the year 2021 when the government literally sort of junked the FRBM Act and went for 9% of fiscal deficit in that year, 3 times the statutory limit for that. The government did announce that we will do a revised sort of fiscal consolidation and bring fiscal deficit back to 4.5% by 25-26. 2 years have gone since then, including the current year, and fiscal deficit has been in excess of 6%. Again, twice the limit which the FRBM Act has said. So we are in an era of very high fiscal deficits. It has enormous implications. If you borrow about 16 lakh crores in a year, at about 7%, you add a lakh crore in your interest bill. So the item which you would see recording highest increase in the next year's budget is the interest payments. And that will probably consume about 1.7 to 1.8 lakh crores of additional expenditure. That's very high. So fiscal deficits need to be controlled. Fiscal deficits need to be sort of taken care. But the government has limitations. As I said, there is now sort of a peaking of revenues on the side. You've seen corporate profits also sort of declining after the inflation is, wholesale inflation is coming under control. There's been pressure on the revenue, on the expenditure side, subsidies, etc. So my sense is that next year, as I said, government will not be able to consolidate fiscal deficit too much. It will be somewhere in the range of about 6%, maybe 5.8, 5.9 or 6%. The exact numbers one can't predict, but somewhere very close to 6%. So fiscal consolidation is still not there. It will have to wait for probably the new government after 24 for attending to this task.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. So this is from my side. Stay tuned with Moneycontrol.
1st of February, all eyes will be here. What Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says on taxes, subsidies, growth, education, health, crypto, global factors and domestic recovery, every word will be crucial, every word will be analysed. But don't worry, Moneycontrol got your back. Our team will be interpreting every aspect of Budget 2023 and how it impacts your life. What's becoming more affordable? What's becoming more expensive? What are the stock recommendations and expert views? Real-time, minute-by-minute coverage. Hop onto Moneycontrol to have it all. Moneycontrol, the only digital channel to non-stop live stream budget coverage for over 12 hours. Join our experts, analysts and editors from 7:30 a.m. onwards on the 1st of February. Think budget, think Moneycontrol.